Good morning, Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, Martin. How'd you do?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. A little bit washed out with sunlight, despite there also being snow outside. So a weird collection of weather that we're having, but it's exciting, isn't it? Pleasant.
Sounds like a winter wonderland.
It is. It is in the beginning of February. So I guess that's climate change, is it?
No,
I don't know. Is
I
that
think,
is that normal? I don't know.
well, it's not normal, but there's nothing warm. The thing you need to know about the climate is the climate always changes. So always be ready for a surprise.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You're not a denier, right? Are you a denier?
I think about it. I think
you
about,
think you think about denying it. You consider it.
I, well, I wasn't expecting it to go this way. I don't think climate change is the most immediate a threat to humanity, is what I think. And while we're all distracted thinking about climate change, there are actual acts of environmental terrorism going on every day that we could be addressing. That's what I actually think about the climate. So I'm not a climate change denier. The climate changes all the time.
Yeah. Okay. That's you've clearly thought about it much more deeply than I have. So maybe we shouldn't go that down that tangent. I like to jump on board any bandwagon. Less plastic. More paper. More paper? I don't know. I don't even know if that's good these days.
I
Trees.
I think less pollution would be a great place to start. Let's do that. Let's just have
Yeah.
less pollution. Let's do that. And if we can do that, then maybe we should start imagining we can actually control the temperature of the planet and we can focus on that next. You know what I mean? But let's
You've got this
step
nailed.
by step by step. Yeah, yeah. I
You
have
figured
thought
this
about
out.
this. I have
I
thought
love
about
it.
this.
Were you
Um,
pointing at me there? What were you pointing at me with?
there was a speck on my screen. It was annoying me. It's still there.
I thought you were like educating me, and that's what we should do next.
That's what we should do. Baby steps. Baby steps. Okay,
Absolutely.
good. So, thank you for agreeing to spend some time with me this morning. We're not here to talk about the environment, unfortunately, or fortunately. We're here
We're
to
not.
talk about marketing. Um, I've had one conversation with you in my life. We kind of spoke
Hmm.
about what this was about. Um, it's interesting because it's kind of you're the eighth person we've established. You won't be 007. You are the eighth person, and it's kind of interesting because it's kind of going in a direction of its own. Where I started was thinking that nobody knows anything about marketing and nobody wants to invest in marketing, and I still think that. But I can't find anyone who doesn't know anything about marketing. Everyone I've spoken to seems to know perfectly about marketing and is perfectly prepared to do it. They are marketing people, to be fair, apart from
Mm.
Jim, who introduced me to you. So it's
Yeah.
kind of taking its own kind of course, which is nice. And the conversations are probably more interesting than they would be if I was just left to my own devices. So the way this works is we're interested to know. I'm not going to introduce you because I don't know you well enough to do that. I know you're doing some interesting things. You can tell us about those. You can introduce yourself to us. You can tell us how it is that you are qualified to talk to us about marketing, kind of where your career has taken you, what you've been achieving, those kinds of things. I'm interested to know how you feel about marketing. I understand that you are offering marketing as a service now as a consultant. So I'm interested to know kind of who your clients are and what you deliver for them in the way of marketing value. And then we round off by talking about this weird, stupid situation that we find ourselves in and what your recommendation might be for people. So that it normally takes about an hour and
Okay.
10 minutes. If we're done in
Okay.
3 minutes, we can get back to the climate.
Yeah. If we're done in 3 minutes, I probably don't know much about marketing. I could start there. I don't know anything about market. That's where Jim started. I know nothing. You may have to give me some prompts of those questions. I haven't got a great recollection, short-term memory-wise,
Okay.
but I
So
can
the
definitely start with who I am and why I do what I do in marketing, I guess.
how you're qualified to talk to us about marketing, that's what I'm interested to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, and that's probably an easy question, which is that I'm not qualified in that I have no qualifications, no marketing qualifications. I have a good, kind of rounded education in all kinds of things, but marketing was certainly not one of them. And in fact, I went down, kind of way more of an entertainment route of drama and music, and ended up being a DJ for 10 years. So that's kind of my my actual background was yeah, house music, nightclubs, that kind of malarkey. Which step by step I started. As a DJ, you can only make so much per hour, so you start looking at, oh, well, who's putting the nights on, the promotions, who's making the big bucks, who's taking all the door money. So I started looking at promotions as a kind of a next career step. Tried putting some events on, which kind of led me down the marketing path of, I guess I'm now doing marketing because I'm trying to sell tickets for an event. So that's, I guess, very briefly how I found marketing was through that very natural kind of music route. After that, I was still doing marketing in entertainment. I was about to get either dismissed or made redundant. It didn't really matter. Like I was in a very small business where I wasn't properly employed. I was kind of working freelance for them, and I basically went and pitched for a job way above my experience levels and my pay grade. But they liked me. I learned how to do marketing the night before, like how to interview for it. I got this DVD, like 77 ways to grow your own business or something. And I basically memorized it and thought what was going to be the most appropriate for this business that I was interviewing for. And they loved it. And I spent the next 6 years with them, a global design manufacturing business. They've been making, Disney merchandise, Harry Potter, Xbox, and selling it all around the world. So, a big business, one of the main players kind of in the gift and merchandise industry. And I was the head of their kind of global marketing department for the next 6 years. So in a way, I find marketing quite a funny subject. I don't know if you feel the same, but it's almost like it's marketing, I think, is almost more of a gut feeling and a willingness to learn than it is any kind of education. It's so fast moving, right? How can you really learn marketing in education? I'd be 20 years out of date at least. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. It makes perfect sense. And I've got a particular experience of this because I have, for the last 7 years, I've been a lecturer with the Digital Marketing Institute. So that's taken me to some quite interesting places, some quite interesting continents. I've met some really interesting people. But the issue that they have, the challenge that they have, and one of the challenges I think of digital marketing is that if somebody at Google decides they want to change something, it changes globally for everyone. And it seems
Absolutely.
to me they decide every 20 minutes they want to change something. So there is absolutely no way that you can design a curriculum, get the curriculum accredited, and get it to the students before everything's changed. And
Yeah.
it's not that everything changes. It's like, where's the buttons changes, So
Yeah.
it's a hugely evolving thing. So what I tell my digital marketing students is I can't tell you how to do digital marketing. It's a bit like surfing. No one can teach you to surf. They can only teach you to be safe in the water. And that's what I kind of do. And I kind of focus on the principles and I give them that. But you're absolutely right. There's no way any academic body can keep up with the. I don't think there's. I've also wonder how much actual change is going on. Like since the mobile phone, there hasn't been a step change that I'm aware of. There are every 20 minutes there's new social media, but then
Of
no
course. Yeah.
different necessarily than what's gone on before. So yeah, I'm with you entirely. It does change. I don't think it needs to change so much. I think people would be able to get much better value from it if it were a little bit more consistent. But certainly academic institutions can't keep up with the pace of change in digital marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's it changes for a number of reasons. The right reasons are to adapt to consumer behavior or user behavior, especially in technology, or to changes in the way that people think about things. We were talking about climate change and, sustainability and ethical marketing, ethical practice. These come in and things go out. And those are the right things that should change as a marketing, as an opportunity for marketing. And that's really what it is. It's the opportunity. Perhaps the things that don't need to change, you're right, are the people, what do they call it? So scratching the scratching their own back. No, I can't remember what it's called, but where they're basically making work for themselves to keep themselves employed, and they're changing things and adding technologies here or changing the way, like you said, moving buttons around basically just to give themselves a job to do. And I think there's a huge amount of that, and it does make things really complicated for us. And all you can really learn, and that's why I said almost, I think marketing's a gut feeling, is that you can learn the fundamentals of, putting yourself in your customers' mindset and trying to figure out how they want to be talked to. And for me, that's the fundamental of marketing. You have to learn all the tools to do that. But really, if you can switch your brain around and think, how can I talk to this? How would I want to be talked to if I was a potential consumer of this product? Then you've kind of got that bit nailed. And that's the swimming, right? That's the swimming
Yes.
in your surf analogy. And some people swim really naturally. Some people have to be taught it, I guess, need a slightly more thorough lessons. So that's where I was for 6 years. It was great. Real learning curve. We did every kind of marketing, from your most basic designing. I learned it all on the job, designing business cards, through to geo fencing, and pay per click, SEO, all the complicated stuff. And then I moved almost away from the actual marketing, into the management side of things more so. So I was the manager when I arrived, but I was the manager of no one. And by the time I left, I had a team that I had to manage. So there was a bit of an itch there, I guess, to scratch. That I enjoyed learning the management stuff, but it's that old thing of you keep growing until you're doing something you don't want to do anymore, or that maybe you're not very good at. So I wanted to get back to the marketing side of things, actually delivering marketing rather than just managing people. So around that time, almost conveniently, that the pandemic struck back in March 2020. And that's where I got furloughed. I furloughed the entire marketing department for the business, got furloughed. Thankfully, the business is all recovered. It's great. It's lovely, on wonderful terms with them. But I got furloughed, and I just couldn't. I can't sit idle. I'm a busy person. I'm full of hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder and all that kind of malarkey. So I went straight into trying to help people, I guess, giving free marketing to businesses that were struggling with the pandemic. And we're kind of getting into my brand story here, which again in itself is kind of marketing, I guess, which is Marketing 101 was born from me giving free support to businesses that were struggling in the pandemic. I did it for 3 months, loved it, took voluntary redundancy and made it my business. So I guess that's kind of bringing me up to date. The qualified to talk about marketing is that I've done it, on a really big scale, global scale. Millions and millions of pounds budget spent over those 6 years, and everything. You name a kind of marketing, events, influencer, content strategy, social, email, CRM management, rebranding on both, an using internal resource level and using a big expensive rebranding company. I've done it all. And I guess that's why consultancy now suits me. I guess that's why I love that I've got a big toolkit, I guess, to talk to people about and to advise on.
Yes. Okay, cool. And so actually this business that you're involved in, it went through a great deal of growth in the time that you were there. Did it grow sixfold? Am I right in thinking that?
I think last time I did the maths, it figures out as 400%. It grew from 10 million to 60 million in the time I was there. I joined and there was about 30 members of staff, and I left. There was about between 140 and 170, depending on what time of year we had seasonal staff. Considerable growth, which again has been an amazing kind of experience for me to not just work in a successful business, but a business that went through things, office moves, systems upgrades, investments, literally having to run due diligence for a minority investment, those kind of things. I've all kind of been part and parcel to, which I certainly wouldn't as a DJ, so it's been it was a great journey. Couldn't really ask for anything better. especially considering what I was doing before, which was I was basically a marketing admin and jumped to a head of position. It was a stroke of luck. Apparently I interview well. I guess that's what I've got to put it down to.
Okay, cool. You're going to be gutted to hear this, but the guy who was number 7, who was 007, also was a DJ before he went into marketing, and also
Was he?
kind of cut his teeth. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. But I think Tim, who I spoke to before that, he is also an actor, and he did like a minute or 2 minutes of Shakespeare before we started anything, and only because
Wow.
I didn't want to stop him. It was King Lear, and he was just off on one. So there seems to be something, even if it's not the most creative marketing, even if it's not like the brand identity type stuff, there seems to be something about creative people ending up in marketing. That's not occurred to
Definitely.
me before.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it a lot. One of my, I mean, several of my DJ buddies. One of them obviously can't work at the moment. He's doing a lot of work for me, content creation, web design stuff, managing social media channels. Another one, DJ, but also runs a nightclub. Also runs a marketing course at a local uni for event management. And one actually who has blown us all away about 6 years ago, and he was really, really good DJ, moved to Australia, and latest update I've seen on LinkedIn, he's literally like head of marketing for MasterCard. Like massive growth over the last 10 years. He's just,
Yes.
so there's definitely something there about creatives and marketing. I think it appeals to me because of the variety within marketing. I think, there's never a dull moment, there's never a repeated day. And I think that's probably a creative itch to scratch. And there's also opportunity with marketing. There is, there's way more than one way to skin a cat in marketing, way more. So that's, I guess, where the creativity comes from that provides that. It's not the only, I still need to go and DJ a little bit every now and then. I do a radio show, and I need that creative outlet as well, grab the piano or whatever. But certainly, the whole do the job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That I think applies for creatives in marketing, especially if you've
Yes.
got a bit of free reign, to be creative with it.
Yeah. So there's a guy I know. Do I know him? I'm not going to remember his name now. There's a few of these guys who are speakers talking about marketing, and they do a bit of juggling, and they get the guitar out and they do a bit of, and also me, I think I'm a bit of an entertainer. I auditioned for the part of Oliver Twist when I was about 11, for a BBC
Really?
TV production. Yeah, and they turned me down because
Wow.
my cheeks were too fat.
Well, you can't play a starving orphan with fat cheeks. That's fact. You can't. Yeah, I played Artful Dodger, not in any televised production, but yeah, I played Dodger for it wasn't a school one. It was like a local Dram Darling production of Oliver. But yeah, it's great. It's great.
Okay.
Maybe there's something there.
I'm
Deep
thinking there
tide.
is something there, like I teach digital marketing. I'm a lecturer with the Digital Marketing Institute, I call it. It's 90% entertainment. Like you have to stand up in front of this group of 50 people for 5 days, and they get bored. So it
Mm.
is, I don't know if it's 90% entertainment, but it's a lot of entertainment that goes into it. But it's never really occurred to me until I spoke to Tim. He did his King Lear. I spoke to 007, and
Yeah.
the DJ, I'm speaking to you, you're a DJ. There's something in this. There must be something in this. And what
Well, I
I
think
say to
also,
people, yeah,
I was just going to say also, I think that within marketing, there's a lot of breaking things down and explaining things to an audience. I guess, as a creative type or a performer, what you're trying to do is draw your audience into what you're doing. There's an element of that, I think, certainly in what I do now, consultancy, where you're looking at cues and you're like, are they getting this? Are they into this? Are they not into this? What do I need to do to get them into this? And I think certainly as a DJ, that's what you do. You're reading the room, and you're trying to take people on the same journey as you. And I think that that's perhaps why I've found my feet a little bit in consultancy, is that I'm good at reading people, and I'm good at, in the previous job they said I needed to be a little bit careful because I'm a heavy influencer, right? So I could draw people to my way of thinking, even if my way of thinking was wrong. I had to, the HR warned me to be just a little bit wary of that. But maybe that's it. You know, maybe that's the entertainer in us all, that we're
Yes.
desperate to get them to like our show, um, of marketing, maybe.
Yes. This has honestly never occurred to me before, but the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced by this brand new thing. I'm thinking there's a book in this. I don't
Have
know. I
you
don't know what it is.
have you heard of the you must have heard the phrase kind of imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Have you heard that? Yeah. So I was in an SEO conference, a really big one, Brighton SEO conference, huge thing. You know, they take over kind of 10 different giant halls, and you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of people arrive. And I went to this one, which is about mental health in the digital marketing trade. And the lady was saying, um, she talked she did like a show of hands thing, you know, who's ever felt like they're an imposter in their own job, you know, like they're not really as good as what they're selling, and the whole room put their hand up. And you know, whoever feels like they're talking a better game than they're actually delivering, and the whole room put their hand up. There's some real honesty there about it, and I think that's kind of part of this performing thing, is that I often find that with marketing, a huge part of it is selling not more than you can deliver, but selling the maximum that anyone could deliver. You know, SEO can get you to number one on Google. And once you've managed to persuade people of that, because you know, it's marketing, it's my trade, I want you to believe that everything is possible that I'm saying, then you go and find out that way of trying to actually figure it out, how to do it. I think there's a lot of that, and I'm not sure if I like it or not. That's because you're one of your questions was, how do you feel about marketing? I don't know if that's where we're getting, but I feel that
That's
a
where we're
lot of
getting.
it,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is it's kind of smoke and mirrors, and I hate all of that bit. I'm desperate to be as transparent as possible, and kind of pull back the cloud of, you know, or the, you know, the dark fog around certain marketing subjects. But it's actually really difficult, because some of it is just that there's you just find more fog. I think it's it can be a really frustrating industry to be in, I think. Do you find that? I mean, I know you're I can swear, can't I, on this?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, it's a gentle swear word. You've got a very no bullshit
Yes. Yes.
attitude,
Yes.
or,
Yes.
or
Yes.
part to your brand, of kind
See,
of pulling back the curtain a bit.
I wouldn't call it smoke and mirrors. I wouldn't call it fog. I would call it bullshit. I
Bullshit.
think, like, you will start to know now. Like, I've pitched, Lord knows, thousands of people. It's torture
Mm,
because everyone, they've seen six people already, and everyone else has bullshitted them. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I remember I saw a potential client at one point, and he said to us, "Look, guys, you're just too honest. You need to learn that you will slide much further on bullshit than you will on grass." And it's almost like, so now people
That's
expect to be
infuriating.
bullshitted. Yeah. And the thing is that the truth also is pretty good. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, what can actually be achieved. But the thing is, like, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think there's kind of layers to this. So everyone in that room was presenting themselves as maybe a bit better than they are. And what they were presenting, i.e., the product, or maybe what they were presenting, the opportunity was a bit better than what it was. And what they were presenting, the product was a bit better than what it was.
Mm,
And maybe the way they were presenting the results was a bit better than what it was. Because the job really is to present your product or service in the best possible way, isn't it?
it
That's kind
is.
of
Yeah,
the
of
gig.
course.
And at some point, you are the product or service because you have to sell it. You know,
Yeah.
and I say this a lot, the hardest sell is the internal sell, actually getting people to understand and commit to what needs to be done, and actually then making it happen. That's actually, I think, harder than being out in the wilderness looking for customers. That's
Mm.
what I think. So there's like
Yeah, definitely.
layers of like upward projection where it needs to happen. It needs to be like that.
Yeah.
But I've not thought of it until you said it like that. Imposter syndrome.
Well, there's this balance in that that's quite a hard thing to balance, you know, these two sides, which is the first being, you're right, the job is to sell marketing, and in specific your services, um, and then the truth is that marketing is a, a gamble which both me and my customer need to agree to take. There are no guaranteed results in marketing, but telling them that whilst trying to sell them your services is impossible. They're literally, you know, they're juxtaposition. They're fighting with each other. Those two statements. I can do this. I can deliver this. This is what we can achieve. Caveat: it's a gamble. Nothing's guaranteed. Like, it's really, really hard. And what you end up doing, and I'm trying not to do, is missing off the caveat, and then you end up disappointing customers. And I think if you can get to a stage where you are on the same page as a customer from the beginning, from the offset, saying this is a gamble. Yes, we're hedging our bets, right? It's not like, it's not red or black. But we're hedging our bets. We're using our brain. We're looking at the right, you know, location. We're looking at the right demographic. We're presenting them with things we think they'd like. You know, we're looking at our cost per acquisition to make sure that we're spending the right amount of money every time someone clicks, so that you're not just, you know, throwing your profit. You can hedge all these things to say we should have a successful venture together, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And that's where I think this that's where the bullshit comes into it. And it's whether you can bring people on board truthfully, or whether you have to be untruthful. And I think if you have to be untruthful, then they're probably not going to be a great client. If you can't start honestly with them, and if they can't grasp the fact that, no, I cannot guarantee, you know, that you will get to number one on Google for this search term. If they can't grasp that it's not possible, then they're probably not going to be a great client down the line. But I don't know if there's a lot of them out there that would grasp it. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So what I would say is, I would say it's not a gamble. It's an investment. You know, that's what it is. And the trouble with marketing is that there's only so much you can control. And really what you're mainly doing is influencing things and hoping that influence is going to pay dividends.
Yeah.
But I would say the only place where it falls over entirely is at the point that you lose the customer and they stop investing. That's the only right. So at both ends. So at the beginning, if they've got a shitty product and no one wants to buy it, you need to run away at 1,000 miles an hour, because it's not going to happen, and they won't realize that nobody wants to buy it. So
Yeah.
that's a failure point right at the beginning. But that's where you let it fail, you make it fail, you say in the kindest way possible, you know what, we're not going to be able to help you with this. So there's
Yeah.
that. And then at the other end of the relationship, there is the client losing all faith or running out of resources, but typically I think running out of faith, and
I
they
think
put a
so
hold
too.
to it, and that's where it fails. So for me, there is no stark, I can guarantee success in people's marketing. Now, I don't want to sound like one of these secrets to marketing kind of idiots, because I think they are largely responsible for the situation we find themselves in. But I can guarantee that your marketing will be more successful than it is now, certainly,
Right.
for as long as you continue to invest in it. But you're right, people don't want to hear that, because it's shrouded in all this mystery and the biggest secret and all of this
Mm.
stuff. And so people understand, I think it's a gamble, but they want to gamble on the situation is where, I don't know, there's probably a word for this in gambling, but where you just go for the crazy bet because it's 1,000 to 1, as opposed to the safe bet, which is 3 to 1. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
7 to
Yeah.
8. I'm not a gambler.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think, you know, I think you're right. The as long as they're willing to invest um, over time and allow you to steer that ship to whatever is working better and away from things that are working worse. I think if they have more of a holistic attitude to a marketing budget and to all the tools available to them, absolutely. I guess where I'm saying it's a real gamble is if we take it back to a real kind of grassroots scenario. I've got a customer in construction who are currently selling garden rooms, right? So really nice kind of 35 grand rooms that can be built really quickly in a garden. Maybe it's an office, obviously that's hot kind of topic at the moment, home office, but maybe it's a new lounge, or maybe it's a play area, or maybe it's a gym, whatever. They're selling these units, and what we're doing, we're going down the geographical route. Now they've had some other very digital first businesses trying to sell them on social and PPC and SEO, and that's fine, and it should definitely be part of a holistic campaign. But where I've suggested that we go, which is where we've ended up going, is down a postal route supported with some, geo-targeted social and some local some local press, consumer press. But we're going to find the postcode of the people who are affluent, who are homeowners, who are have gardens, who've maybe invested in home development at some point in the last decade. We're going to really hedge our bets, and we're going to send a flyer to everybody on that road. It's down to a single postcode. It's brilliant, and we're going to send a flyer or a brochure or whatever. There's a chance that no one on that road wants that product, and that's why I'm saying it's always a gamble. You cannot account for the people that you end up marketing to not wanting what you're selling. It's a brilliant product. What if they've already got every solution they want, or this person's got the solution already, this one hasn't got the cash, this one's investing in someone else? And that's where you go, well, let's find the next postcode. And that's when you're hedging your bets. That's when it goes from, your 1,000 to 1 to a 500 to 1 to a 20 to 1 down to your 7 to 8 or whatever the odds are. That's where I think, but people have to be willing to go on that journey and that longevity. I come across so many people who just expect to stick, I don't know, a few £100 a month into social adverts, and they're surprised in month one when they maybe haven't made the money back or sold, and I guess that's, that's just the conversation you have to have, is about the time it can take to regain your marketing investment and find your feet. It's not just pay to play, it's pay to experiment.
Yes, and that is the gig. That is the gig. Is what you have to do is test everything so that you can see where the responses are and where the sales are and where the high lifetime customer value and the low cost of customer acquisition are. That's it. And for me, I would say you are taking a gamble if you're relying on direct mail, because the direct mail association say that only 1% of their things are even opened. So, and they haven't got a clue how many people open them. How would they know?
Yeah.
So I would say if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, then then it becomes more of a gamble.
Exactly.
The way I hedge my bets is I turn up, and I would hope that I would have some experience of a business like this, or a product like this, or in this market. So I can come with some experience and say, we're going to go with X, Y, and Z in this order because that's our experience of this happening. I think by the time, so for me, it's always about integrated marketing. It's always about establishing what the messages, what the products are first, what the messages are, then what the channels are, and then going that way. So that's interesting. What did I want to say about that? You can do some really cute. The thing is, this is also an issue that's happening now, is that the thing is becoming so, what's the word, fragmented and diverse, that now you've got people who are wholly Facebook advertising companies, service providers, or Twitter. You made me cough then.
Sorry about that. Contagious cough.
You did the action, I did the noise.
It's like a yawn.
Oh, was it? Okay, I'll make a yawning noise next time. So, you've got people who are now, I don't know if they're Twitter marketing specialists or TikTok marketing specialists. There are certainly PPC advertising specialists. There's,
Absolutely.
you know, so the thing is, when I started in 2005, we were a telemarketing company. So if anyone came to us with a marketing issue, it had
That's
to
what you're
be
selling them.
telemarketing. Exactly, yeah. And that really is hedging your bets, because who knows? The thing about social advertising is that social is essentially just display advertising. It's
Mm.
not, nobody should have an expectation that you're ever going to make a sale from a social ad. Like, it will happen occasionally, you'll get clicks occasionally, but it will be very occasionally. That's not the role of display advertising in your marketing investment. You know, you're, that's to build awareness. That's, you know, it's a different kind of a thing. So I think
Mm.
that's a danger of where we are right now, is that the whole thing has become so technical and fragmented that, you know, I know a guy, and he's uh, like, the people on these pre-roll YouTube ads who do this, and you'll make millions.
Yeah, yeah.
They're getting a shitty ride on this influence, whatever this is, marketing chat show thing. Um, and I know one, and he's making a lot of money, and he claims that his customers are making a lot of money. He won't speak to me because he's too busy to speak to me. Um, but my experience of that is that doesn't work. You know, you need some kind of a mix. And if you think about this in terms, I'm talking too much, but if you think about this in
No,
the
no, it's fine.
terms of the customer journey, they need to be aware in the first place that there's a solution available. They need to be aware that you are creating that solution or delivering that solution. They need to, they have to go on that journey. And so what might make them aware is an ad on Facebook. And, you know, by the time they're interested, they might be checking it out on YouTube. So you've got to
Yeah.
be doing Facebook and YouTube for that to happen. And then one day they might wake up and just Google it, in which case, if you're not ranking, you need to be doing your PPC. Do you know what I mean? And then they might get a quote, and then they need to stay warm for 3, 4 months. So there needs to be some email. And at some point, somebody should pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. And maybe someone's going to go around and have a cup of tea and a biscuit with them. And do you know what I mean? You need to take them on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
journey. So it has
Well,
to
it's
be
touch
kind of
points.
integrated, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a hard one to talk about really sometimes with customers. I think when you really just break it down and say, look, you know, no one ever buys on the first touch point, and no one's going to buy if you keep bugging them with the same touch point. Like if you put a flyer through their door every single week, or you email them twice a week, or no one's ever going to convert on that because you're just annoying them. So yeah, the touch points, absolutely. And that's, you're right. There are those people out there selling a single product and branding themselves as a marketing agency. And then, you know, people who aren't in the know, understandably, that, you know, they're not marketers, they've got businesses to try and grow. They go to Google, they find this business, and they go, okay, yeah, no, I've heard all of your problems, and SEO is the answer. Like, and I think that's, the fragmentation is definitely a real problem. And to be honest, why, you know, people like you know, me, or ourselves, who can consult on a lot, on everything, you know, I quite like not having a real bias. I mean, yes, the agency Marketing 101 does deliver some core functions. You know, we'll do copywriting, we'll run email marketing, we'll do social media, whatever. But I'm working really hard to be very unbiased. I have my favorites. Like I'm quite a big fan of content strategy, or if you're talking about social media, then I'm always going to be biased towards LinkedIn. But I think having a holistic attitude as a marketer is really, really important. That being said, I mean, talking about the guys at the, you know, at the front of YouTube videos selling, you know, I've discovered the secret to you know, to social marketing. Follow this formula and you're guaranteed to do X, Y, and Z. They may be correct. I mean, you had Jim on, as you said a couple of weeks ago, I was fascinated to hear he was one of the people, let's say, making the most of SEO when it first came out, right? He found the loophole and really went for it. And maybe these guys are doing the same. Maybe they have found a little loophole, but there's no longevity there. And there's no, yes, they can get you leads at, you know, 100 a minute, maybe, but is your website converting? You know, are your customer services nice on the phone? Are your salespeople following up leads? You know, have you got, an abandoned basket campaign on your website to catch those people that fall at that, all these things that go before and after it, or at least after it, that that kind of crazy lead driving pitch that they're giving you. And that's why we were talking before about, businesses really have to have an understanding of, have to have an appetite for marketing to really do it properly. And if they don't, then they'll get snapped up by someone who offers them what's the phrase? The moon on a plate. Is that a thing? I don't know if that's a phrase. They offer them the moon on the plate, on a stick. They offer them everything. They say yes, but really what they're going to do is charge them 400 quid a month for SEO. And it's a tiny part of the puzzle. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think they offer the moon on a plate. I think it might be the moon on a plate. I don't know.
I think it's the moon on a plate.
Next time you get on one for 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to Google it.
Okay, cool. It does happen. It does happen. But yeah, so that's it. And I think, I would always recommend that you talk to of course I would. It's what I'm selling, right? This is my bullshit. I'd always recommend talking to a marketing consultant first, but you've got to, because you won't be considering, almost certainly you won't be considering every opportunity for your business. That's literally my job, is to understand what you're doing. And I don't think I've ever had a conversation where I haven't managed to say, have you thought about doing this? The biggest one I ever have is, how are you talking to your existing customers, your ex-customers? We don't. No, we just need new customers. No. You need to go to your existing customers and your ex-customers. That's always good. When I joined the business I was with for 6 years, within a couple of months, I'd sent an email campaign to ex-customers. They had 15 years or more of emails, email addresses of customers that they'd never contacted since they stopped buying. And that email just, and you can imagine brand new on the job, that email generated about 40-50 grand of sales in the next couple of weeks, which is, the size of a pretty decent sized customer of theirs. It was a really good move, and it's because no one had ever thought about ex-customers. So those are the kind of conversations I think that you need to have, and why you need to get someone in who can think beyond one subject, one marketing activity.
Yes. And I think you're absolutely right. There's a stat that I roll out all the time. When I first started, there was an organization called Business Link, and what they did is they employed lots of middle-aged men who supposedly been really successful in medium-sized businesses. And they employed these guys to go around and consult with small businesses. And they did a study supposedly, and they found it's 17 times more expensive to find and win a new customer than it is to sell to an existing customer. But this is what I mean about it not being a gamble, because if they've got existing or ceased customers, that that's a rich vein. That that you can mine that, and you can see some pretty quick success.
Well, unless they're ex-customers because they screwed them all over. And that's still where I come back to. There is still a gamble there, because their ex-customers might have hated them. Maybe they put out a product that had to be recalled and sent some of their friends bust, that sent them under. And now they're like, never work. I've come across those people who were like, oh, my product wasn't displayed properly or whatever, I'll never work with them again. And that's done. So I agree. There's rich veins, there's hedging your bets, but there is still always that underlying gamble.
Okay, so I'm going to quantify this for you, because I'm coming to some real clarity. There's a gamble at the beginning. The gamble is their product shit or their dicks. Okay.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
There's a gamble at the end, which is you haven't been able to motivate them enough to keep them investing in what it is that they need to do. So the way I've done it, I don't do it anymore. I'm not looking for clients anymore. God help me. I wanted to be the small businesses marketing champion for the 9 years that I've launched myself out of bed and did the Effective Marketing Company 15 hours a day. And what I realized is they don't deserve one at the end of the day. So, but your job is to take them on, is to convince them, is to not necessarily, I don't think, blow their minds because they haven't thought of this one opportunity, but to convince them of what the process is, convince them that they're in the business of buying customers, and then you have to show them progress immediately. It doesn't have to be your phones are ringing off the hook immediately. Do you know? It doesn't. It can't
No.
be that, because anyone who believes that it is falling into the dick category at the beginning of the conversation. So if they've got
Yeah.
a shit
Okay.
product or they're a dick, you need to run a mile. Okay.
Yeah.
If you take them on, it's not even a gamble. That is a hiding to nothing. I sound like I'm lecturing you, but I've been hurt
No.
so many times.
No, I love it, and it's you're completely right. I think again it comes back to that appetite. If they have an appetite for marketing and understanding, the question I often ask. I had this conversation very recently with the customer that I then lost. I think because I asked this question, was where do you think your customers are going to come from if you don't do any of these recommendations? Because I was pushing this, whatever it was like, well, you need to get blogging so you can flood your LinkedIn with real content and show that you're an authority, an active member of your industry. Then you need to, this was a brand new product. They had no brand awareness. They had nothing. They had no sales. They just had the website and the product. And I was like, okay, so then you need to get on social. No one's interested in following your social media because your product's boring, but we can advertise it to them. So we need to run adverts. And it was like, no, we don't like that. Okay, well, how about some consumer press, some trade press? How about we try and sell it at wholesale, at retail? Yeah, we're not really keen on like face-to-face meeting. And I literally had to say, how are you expecting to sell this product if you're not going to take anything on? I think that's, if you can say that nicely, like to people that perhaps don't have an appetite or don't understand marketing, then maybe you can move the conversation along. Because also what they'll probably say is, oh, it's all word of mouth, or referrals. Great. So how do we get more of those? How do we treat your existing customers better and your ex-customers so that you're always in their mind, so that next time a referral opportunity comes up, they will make that referral? How do we make your customers better advocates for your business? Can we put a customer reward scheme back in? How many customers are you losing? Can we work on customer retention? Then you can have those questions, but only if you get people to admit that they have to get customers from somewhere. And there's some real deniers out there. They think if you build it, they will come, and that's it. And it's not the attitude at all. There we go. That was a rant? What did you do? What did you need to do? You
Couldn't
Googled
do
something.
anything. I was in
Oh,
trance. I was in
I thought
trance.
you were gonna.
The thing is, the thing about that is, what is the thing about that is you have to, okay, I'm going to tell you what somebody told me when I was probably as far into the effective marketing company as you are into marketing 101. I sat down with this guy and he's like, how's it going? I was probably a couple of years in. And he said to me, how's it going? And I'm like, so exciting. I'm getting people so excited about marketing. And he's like, here's something you should probably think about. Why don't you just spend your time talking to the people who are already excited about marketing? And he was right. Like, my energy was going in for free about educating these people about what marketing was and the opportunity and what you could actually realistically achieve. And I'll give you a report every month to show you that we're moving towards that. And I was getting people, but all of that energy was going in for free. I don't know how much of that was converting, probably not enough. But then if I've just convinced someone of something, then how long is it going to take them to become less convinced? If they come to you convinced, then you've probably got, they are at that point a proactive marketer. So the issue is, I think we're talking about the same kind of class of people, which is 99% of business owners, in my experience. I've only spoken to thousands, so I'm not saying it's universally true, but I've only spoken to thousands.
You've spoken to a few. It's fine, yeah.
They don't even know why they're in business. They don't even know the value of running a business. And for me, it's so, so simple, because you'll come to know, depending on how your business goes, but you've probably been close enough to the leadership in your last business to know that the only point really of not having a job, of not having holidays and pensions and all that other good stuff, the only point of that is to build something that is truly valuable. So at some point in your life, someone's going to knock on the door and say, like, here's a big fat check for that thing that you made. The only point of running a business is to not be in business. And the trouble is, 99% of businesses are in business to have a living, to have an income. And that will kill you. That will kill you because it's too, here's a heavy hit swear word, fucking hard. It takes
That
all
is a big
day.
swear word.
It is a big swear word. We might use the C word. I can't see it coming in this one. But if you don't understand like the base premise of the only point of being in business, there's another heavy swear word coming up. If you don't understand the point of being in business is to not have to work, to build something that's so valuable that someone will write you a big fat check for it, don't be in business. You know, it's too late. 99% of them already have done that. If you are in business and you don't understand that being in business is simply about finding, winning, and keeping customers profitably, you shouldn't be in business. You just shouldn't. But you have to convince people of this. You will have to convince people of this because they don't know. And here's the other heavy swear word. It's the same swear word again. It's got fuck all to do with you. You know, because you fancy this or you fancy that, or you want to spend time on the phone or you don't want to spend time, it's 100%. You've got absolutely no control of people turning up in your business and giving you money. And if you want them to do that, there's caveats to this. Like I'll tell you about a pork restaurant in Cologne, but essentially it's all about your customers because all you need them to do is to continue to give you their money. Then you're a business, and if you do that successfully enough, you're going to be a successful business. And then somebody is going to knock on the door and they're going to say, like, here's the millions of pounds, why don't you buy yourself a nice home and not work anymore? You know,
it's amazing how many businesses don't look internally first at that, at doing well for your customers. I think you've made me think with you mentioned a restaurant in Cologne, which I'm very keen to hear about, but effectively, you know, a restaurant can thrive just by making amazing food, right? And that's really simple. We understand that, right? Do good food. Everyone will talk about it. People will write their own reviews. You don't need to do any marketing. Probably. Maybe you're about to tell me otherwise, but just apply that mentality first. Do an amazing job. Look to your existing customers. And I kind of had this phrase that I developed. I think it's like and maybe my epitaph phrase whilst I was at Paladone, my previous job, which is everything is marketing. So marketing is everything. And what in simple terms, that means that just because you know you think that this is where marketing sits, realistically, if you take it back to that basic definition, which is what you've just quoted, the attraction and retention of customers at a profit, then everything has to be marketing. How are your staff picking up the phone? If you're wholesaling, what's going on the outside of your boxes? I don't know how clean is your office and how many plants have you got, because that's going to affect your staff's performance. Like literally you can pluck away at any thread and come back to saying, well, actually that kind of sits under marketing. And that's always the attitude I try and take, is that there is always something you can do to do better, to treat your customers better. And I certainly in my last business, my main goal was actually just to make it an amazing business to buy from. I wanted the best collateral, the best trade shows, the best website, the most engaging social media, the most awesome YouTube channel, the best showroom, the best office for people to come and visit. And that should be enough to get that basic swirl of advocacy, customer retention, word of mouth going. Do that, and then the adverts can come on top. You know, what people would see as the more traditional marketing. Tell me about your restaurant in Cologne. I've never been to Cologne. It's Germany, but France border, isn't it? Germany, France border, Cologne. Is that right?
It's northwest Germany, yeah. I don't know how close it is. We drove to Holland from there, so I think it might be a couple hundred k's.
Lovely.
Other parts
I think I've gone through it.
Yeah. This restaurant, what do they call it? I don't remember what they call it, but it's a dish, and it's basically 800 grams of pork knuckle and some potatoes and some cabbage, I think it is. but it's
Lovely.
famous in northern Germany. Yeah, it's I don't know if lovely is the word. Healthy isn't the word I'd use either. But
Traditional. It's traditional.
traditional. Let's go with traditional. Anyway, this restaurant are famously rude to everyone who goes in there. There's a queue all the time. And basically, if you're queuing, you're nobody. Like if you're at a table, you're nobody. But if you're queuing, you might as well not exist. Like nobody's like, as a British person, you'll go in and you'll expect to get a look or at least a hello, or it's going to be a 10 minutes. Nothing. You get absolutely
Really?
nothing if you're queuing. You're nobody. And then you sit down and you're still nobody. They bring you this little, they call it Kolsch, and you drink it in like little 150 ml glasses, and you get really drunk because they keep pouring it on.
Lovely.
But if they decide you're going to get some Kolsch, you'll get some Kolsch. That's what will happen. And then the food will come, and it is delicious. But the guy I was with said, "Do you have some mayonnaise?" He's like, "Well, they sell mayonnaise at the kiosk. Go and buy some."
Really?
Seriously. Now, this isn't, there are some, I've known some businesses like this. The thing is, it isn't the anti-marketing that you might think it is, because what it does is it adds to the legend of the place. So
Absolutely.
supposedly Bill Clinton wanted to go there when he was president of the United States. Um, but he said, you're going to have to close the place because this is the president of the United States. And they're like, we're not closing the place. He's not coming. Simple like that. So this is the legend. So this is the marketing. So everyone goes there expecting
Yeah.
them to be rude, and they are, and everyone talks about it. And at one point in my life, I was selling like a really high value marketing product to like managing country managers and managing directors of like brands that we'll know of, accountancy brands and stuff. And there was only one way to do it, and it was reverse psychology. So you literally had to phone them up, and in the first 30 seconds of the call, let them know you didn't like them and you didn't want them to buy this thing, and that they couldn't have it. And that was literally the only way. So there's two sides to
Wow.
this. So what we don't need to think is you have to be sugary nice to people all the time. What you
Absolutely.
absolutely
Yeah.
have to do is deliver value. Deliver value. That's what you have to do, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if business people understand that, because it's a very personal thing, isn't it? It's like I developed this product, and like this was the issue I had with the networking scene when I started my business. Is like people come from home, and of course their family and their cousins and their aunts and their uncles are all telling them they're amazing and their product's amazing, and then they come to me and it's like, well, everyone I know says this is amazing. And it's like, well, it's a good job. Maybe if you knew everyone, then you'd be really successful. The truth
Yeah.
is, you only know people who like you already.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Mm.
Man, this conversation's taken a turn.
Do you know, I'm fascinated by your restaurant. That kind of thing, that's the dream for a marketer, to come across something like that where they've got a real unique selling point already, like a true USP, not one you've got to dredge for, which is what you're doing most of the time. You're dredging for USPs or competitive differentiators. You're desperately seeking that, but that's like that's your healthy vein. Did you call it your mineable vein?
Legend,
I
I
can't
think
remember
I
what you
called
call
it.
Legend. Yeah. Well, oh yeah. Sorry, you said legend. I was thinking earlier in the conversation, you talked about a vein, like a gold mine vein analogy. But that's it. That's what you tap into, and to kind of bump into businesses that actually have that, or have and have a truly amazing product. Like a Dragon's Den worthy product, and they just haven't been discovered yet. That's the goal, really, isn't it? That would be joyful for a marketer.
Yeah,
It's
but
so
not for the
hard when you
customers.
no. Oh no, of the restaurant. Well, I don't know,
Not for
but
the
it's
customers of the
like
restaurant.
I mean, people pay good money to get put down in certain establishments
Oh,
in
well,
Soho.
like dominatrixes, they do exactly that. That's all they do is treat their customers like
Exactly.
shit. We're onto
Yeah,
something. We're onto something.
that's
So there
it.
has to be
That's
something
it.
about creative marketers and dominatrixes and huge knuckles of pork. This is going to be the
Absolutely.
theme for the book. What did I want to?
That's the Venn diagram. That's the Venn diagram
That's
right
the
there.
Venn diagram. Yeah.
Knuckles, dominatrixes, yeah, creatives. Okay. Marketer in the middle. I like it.
Yes.
It's good.
Bullshit maybe in the middle. Um, yeah, so where do marketing knuckles and dominatrixes meet? I don't know. Okay, so ready
There's a
to
punchline.
yes. So are you ready to be shocked?
Shot.
Shocked.
Shocked. I prefer option B. Shocked. Yes, please. Go for it.
Well, you know, you accuse me of being a climate change denier.
Yeah.
I'm not a climate change denier.
Okay.
I am a USP denier. I think
Are
that's
you?
such a crock of shit.
Do you not think that
No,
being
no,
rude
no.
to their
Yeah,
customers is their USP?
well, no, it might distinguish them. I think it's their legend. It absolutely does. I can prove to you right now this is absolute bullshit. 100% bullshit.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Right. Unique.
Yeah, one of.
One.
Okay.
One.
Yeah, okay.
You know, there's 4 million businesses in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But the only thing I would say is that that's semantics. I think what you're talking there.
No,
If
no, no, no.
they like
A
that
unique
restaurant,
selling point. That's
no,
words. It's not semantics.
because we have to look at who that restaurant is competing with. If that restaurant is competing with every other restaurant in the world, then that's probably not their unique selling point. But if they're only competing with people in that vicinity, I mean, maybe they are competing with the world. Like the Clinton wanted to go there. Maybe that
Yes.
USP is global. But I agree. But I think it's kind of semantics. Certainly, you know, maybe USP could be upgraded to a better word, like something else which says what differentiates you from your competition without the word unique in it, because it really annoys Martin. Maybe we could put that in as a caveat and make
It
a new marketing term.
doesn't really annoy me. I'm just telling you, I don't believe in it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. No, so you tell me, right, you could win this argument, and I'll concede this argument to you 100%. I will apologize. I will send you chocolates. When did you last decide not to buy a product because there wasn't something unique about that product or that brand?
Yeah, that's a very good point. If you're turning it on its head, I buy plenty of products because I think they have a unique selling point. But even I'm thinking back to a nice wooden toothbrush I bought towards the end of last year, made from recycled wood, and for every toothbrush purchased, they go and plant a tree somewhere. Lovely. I was like, that's really good. What a nice USP. There was another brand next to it selling a wooden toothbrush that did something else for a different charity every time someone bought it too. So yeah, I agree. I think your unique is not the correct word. Maybe it should be a sellable selling point or a promotable selling point, something like that. Unique is
Here's what I
drawing
call
it
it.
too narrow.
Here's what I call it. I call it a value proposition.
Oh, that's
Like,
nice.
how exactly do you deliver value? And that is on my LinkedIn market. I've got a LinkedIn marketing course. Nobody's bought it. One person bought it who I don't know. But that's like your LinkedIn headline is whatever it is, 19 words, 3 lines.
Yeah.
And that for me is a value proposition.
A value proposition. Yeah.
And the thing is, that's like your elevator pitch. You remember? Are you too young to remember that?
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. So the way I get people to structure their LinkedIn headline is, this is my level, this is who I work with, this is what I deliver, this is what you're going to take away. You know, so rather than deliver, do. So this is my level. So mine will read something like expert at driving. Oh, I don't know. I can't even remember what it is. But that then is something, because 100 people out of 100 that you will meet will say, I don't know how to tell people what I do. Whereas I can say,
no, it's a big problem.
Whereas I could say, like, I'm an expert at marketing, training something. I support business owners and marketing managers to drive the efficiency of their marketing or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But it's like 6 seconds. It's like bam, and it's over without sounding like a cock.
But what I'd say, so to maybe just try and win a little bit of the USP argument.
You had the chance and you gave it up.
Well, no,
All
I
you had to
know, I
say,
know.
just tell me one instance where you've
I
said
could have just said
there is
yes.
nothing. Well, no, you had to give me an instance.
Oh yeah, well, it was deeply personal. I couldn't possibly commit it to video. There we go. That's a lie. It's not. I can't.
You're such a marketer.
When you've got your LinkedIn value proposition, which I feel like I've heard that phrase before. Definitely, I get that. But when they put you against other people who have the same value proposition, okay, because there's going to be other people out there in a similar role. Imagine that you have taken, I don't know, Samsung from, you were the consultant that took Samsung from, I don't know, whatever, X many billions a year to X many billions. And Motorola are looking at all these different people with similar value propositions. That's your USP. Your unique selling point is that you have done the exact journey that Motorola want to do, and you've done it with Samsung, and none of your peers have, even though they all have the same brand proposition. They're growth consultants, perhaps, and they work with this kind of, they work in the tech business, but your USP could be your experience, and that is unique to you. You're the only consultant that took Samsung from X many billion to X many billion.
Okay, so firstly, no consultant ever did that.
No, of course not.
Here's my value proposition. My LinkedIn headline is expert at educating and motivating business owners and managers to improve sales and profits through digital marketing.
That's nice.
It is nice.
It's great.
Now, if I was pitching Motorola, it would say Motorola Japanese. It would say expert at driving Japanese electronics manufacturers from X% to X%, blah blah. Do you know what I mean? But so it can. There's no such thing as unique. There's no consultant who ever did that for Samsung. But there's nobody look, go and search for marketing agency owners. And I'm tempted to do it right now, but they're delivering a value proposition. Do you know what? The point is, what's the point? The point is that really you want to get over this as quickly as possible. Like, you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Now let's start talking about what your issue is and how what I know might be able to address that issue.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Absolutely.
You know, and so marketing agencies who do this, like, they're trying to be quirky and unique and all this bullshit, deliver value. That's a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's the best. It's the best idea. It's the best. I can't come on board with you with the USP. You warned me to be shocked about the lack of existence of USP. And whilst I'm with you in that, I feel that unique is probably not the right word. There are lots of things in the world that have the wrong name. I think the theory behind it of finding things to hold on to or shout about, you know, if you're the first toilet paper company to become sustainable, or, you know, whatever, then that's, for that moment, that's your USP, even if you're not unique, because there's plenty of other businesses going sustainable or whatever. But if you've got that, or if you're the one restaurant in the city that prides itself on bad service, then that is your USP, even if the word unique doesn't apply. And it is something to grab onto as a marketer. It's not the only thing. I think that's maybe where we could align, is that I'm not saying I would base an entire marketing strategy on a single USP, but it could be something which helps, you know, an element, a demographic that we go after, a way of talking, you know, it could guide our brand voice. It could just be a few nice bits of content, you know, it could be a nice paragraph on the About Us page or whatever. I think they're there, and they're important to identify things that make your business different and interesting. And I guess my point was that they're really rare. Like, they're really hard to come. I struggled at my last business to decide what our brand story was, because what our brand story is we wanted to sell product to make money. That's most people's brand story, right? Is make money. So you have to almost kind of pluck these USPs out of thin air sometimes and help invent them.
Okay. I'm sorry, man. You're not taking me with you. Why? Here's a unique selling point. Be the best. Deliver the most value. Understand your customers better. Give them more better experiences. Get them to the point where they can't shut up about you. And whether that's good or bad, they can't shut. You won't believe how rude these guys were at this pork knuckle restaurant. They are so rude. And people are like, I can't believe that. They have to go and see it for themselves, and then they're telling everyone they know about how rude these people were. He said to go and buy it from the kiosk. I asked for some mayonnaise and said, go and buy it. We're in Germany. We should be having some mayonnaise. He's like, go and buy it from the kiosk. It's like, now I'm talking to you about this. This is so.
Yeah, I'm keen.
The difference is, don't be digging around for a unique selling point. There isn't one. Deliver the most value. That is actually what you should be serving for your customers. So even in this knuckle restaurant, and it's not about being super nice to people, it's just about making a mark, and then it becomes legend. And that's the best kind of marketing that is. That's the marketing that Sue and Polly thought they had when they brought out their envelope puppets for the pandemic. Everyone in their family said it was great. People weren't going to be able to shut up about these things. It's like, not until you tell someone to go and buy mayonnaise, whatever the product is. Do you know what I mean? It's like, don't be fishing for, all right. So I've never said that marketing is everything and everything is marketing. I've never said that. I haven't quite had the balls to say that. But what I do say is that everything in business is marketing. So you could say, well, there's HR. It's a pitch. Everything is a pitch. Like, people come and work for you because they want to come and work for you because they believe that's going to be the best for their career. And their mate told them about it, or the uniforms are cool, or the location's cool, or the whatever it is, the opportunities. Everyone goes on to work for Samsung afterwards. I don't know why you think people should want to work for Samsung or Motorola, but that's the legend. So everything in business is a pitch. And it's whether it's the boss pitching his PA, who's pitching the production manager, who's pitching the guys on the line, who's pitching the delivery guy. The only point of being in business, there's 2 points. The first point is to have built something of value that someone will write a check for. The only way you'll do that is by finding, winning, and keeping customers profitably, and having that process, the point where it just works. Then there will be a queue of people at your door wanting to write you a big fat check for your business. That's the point. And the point is, if you have to find a USP, well, I would say part of the reason it's so difficult is because they don't exist. And also, you're bullshitting. Just do a better job.
I think we are in agreement. We're both maybe just too stubborn to agree. I agree with you. My point was that it's so nice when you stumble across a business that you don't, not that I would, but where there's a really clear USP, insert other word here. That I'm saying it's nice because you've got something to immediately say, great, this is something that I can use. And now I'll look to the rest of my toolkit and deliver amazing value elsewhere. But how wonderful to find a business that already has this kind of really cool thing about it that I've not heard about. I definitely wouldn't be going into businesses digging for USPs. I agree. I think that's boring, to the point at which, like, I remember when I was in school, and we were talking about, it must have been Sylvia Plath, the poet, and the English teacher, Mrs.
You go
Bart.
to a posh school. We weren't talking about poets at my school.
Funnily enough, I did, but this is in my secondary school. My first school was posh. The second one was in the state school.
But this was an English lesson.
English lesson in a state school. We were talking about poetry, and
okay,
Mrs.
we may
Bart,
have
hello
spoken
if you're
about
out
poetry.
there.
We may have spoken about poetry in our English lessons.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it wasn't a poetry lesson. It wasn't that posh. No, but she said, what's the reason behind this poem? What's behind it? Why is Mrs. Plath, dear Sylvia, writing this poem? And I was a stubborn boy, and I said, because she's a poet, it's how she gets paid, miss. Like, I was really stubborn about it. So I think I'm with you in that you shouldn't dig for a reason if there isn't one there. There's no need to try and go, oh, our business is unique because, convoluted reason sentence, digging, ta-da. I'm just saying, I think it's great when you come across a business that has something really cool like that as as one of 100 elements to talk about, online or whatever's next. I think it's great. Like I'd be, for example, with your Belgian business, your Cologne business, sorry, I'd be, if I was their, their new marketing consultant, I'd be talking about how do we get people to write more reviews, right? Because the more scathing the reviews, the better. How do we get those reviews built into some BuzzFeed article? Or how do we get like one of the waiters to read out these reviews on TikTok? One of many ideas to help kind of gain publicity, but actually, it's part of a holistic approach to the marketing strategy for that business. It's just nice to have that. And I want to hear more about these envelope puppets. What's an envelope puppet?
An envelope puppet is where you cut the end off a pen envelope and you put the envelope over your hands, you draw a face on it. You're not up with the kids on this.
No. Was that really a business that got pitched to you?
No, I made it up.
Oh, I'm really disappointed. I really want to know more.
So this is where I agree with you. It is really, really rare to find a business that is actually delivering value. That's the thing. That is probably more unique than a business that just happens to have something that is newsworthy or talk-worthy. And the trouble is that the too many marketers, and I've been guilty of it. I think my wife told me that we did like a personality test, and I was supposed to be a rescuer, was my personality. So immediately I start talking to people, I want to rescue them. But I wish I'd said, look, your business is a piece of shit 50,000 times more than I ever actually did. Because that's where it starts. You know what I mean? It's like, you need this to make a living. Okay, that's fine. But you're not doing it the right way. You're not delivering value for your customers. If that's not your focus, and if it's not happening because you don't fancy this and you don't fancy that, then absolutely, Alex, run a mile. They are not people who are going to be with you for the amount of time it takes to deliver value through their marketing. And that, for me, is the big issue for marketing service providers like you and I, is getting the commitments. So, and nobody's going to commit to a year. Is anyone going to commit to a year? But you need to be able to say, in 3 months, this is what you can expect to see. And in 6 months, this is what you can expect to see. And in 9 months, this is what you can expect to see. And in a year, this is what you expect to see. And in 5 years, this is where we expect to be. Because what happens is people pay these marketing service providers and they disappear off into the wilderness. 3 months is supposedly the average amount of time a digital marketing agency in London keeps a customer for. 3 months.
Really? Is that it?
That's it. Now,
that's why they all insist on 6-month contracts.
Yes.
It's got to be it, hasn't it?
Yeah. But I understand, and hopefully you understand, that at the end of month 1, there needs to be in black and white, this is what we've done, and this is the effect that we're seeing. And at the end of every month, that needs to be the case. And I produce reports for my clients, knowing they're never going to read them, but I make a point of speaking to them every month and referring to something in the report, so then a report's there. So when they're in a shitty mood in 3 months' time, they're looking to get rid of some expense, and they come speak to me. I'm like, well, let's have a nice look at the reports, see what's been going on. And even if they just know to go and pick on someone else, if they're really just in a shitty mood, that has to be there, because if that's not, why would they continue to invest? It's an investment. So
absolutely, there has to be difference. I just think sometimes it can be so, especially when you're kind of talking about that delivering of value to customers, just doing the best you can there. I'm jaundiced. I've gone really yellow now, haven't I? Wow, sorry about that.
I'm colorblind, so I don't know.
A lot of sunshine. Oh, okay, a lot of sunshine coming in. But that's I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, delivering that value and hoping that will, well, not hoping, but knowing that will affect your growth. You will grow just by delivering that, but that's really long tail. That's long time to wait, I think.
How long?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm very much B2B focused, and I think sometimes those kind of projects, where you're polishing the way that you deal with customers, the service you're giving them, the customer journey, trying to find better things to deliver on. Like, can you turn around deliveries better? Can you provide them with less packaging? Whatever. I think those things are absolutely the right thing to do. Like, service the hell out of your customers, definitely. But maybe I'm thinking in a B2B world, it can take quite a long time, because maybe in my last business, you got 2 to 3 orders a year off a person. So to see that go up to 4 or 5 a year, or to see the average order value increase, or to see customer retention improve, it can take I think it can take a long time. And I think people find that quite hard to buy into. But that's absolutely what I believe in. That's how I believe my element of my previous business's growth was achieved. Yes, there was amazing product development and amazing sales at this business, and no doubt that was the real driver for the growth. But my element was polishing it, trying to do everything as beautifully as possible to ensure that everyone loved trading with us. And I think you've got to have that, kind of full combination of, it's back to that, everything is marketing. So 360, look at everything to see what you can improve. And I'm always, it's that lowest hanging fruit. What's the biggest gap at the moment that we can try and resolve, or the biggest opportunity that sits there? I just think people often just want more leads, and good ones, without addressing everything else. And it's building your city on sand instead of rock and roll. If you're just going to go after the leads without addressing everything else in your business first.
Yeah. So here's what I think about that. Is I think that I really knew what I thought about that when I said, here's what I think about that.
Okay. What do you think about businesses who just want more leads?
Okay.
Do you ever try and turn them around and say, no, look to yourself first. Let's look internally and make sure we're converting properly. Make sure we're treating customers right. Let's hold on to more customers. Let's get some ex-customers back.
Absolutely, leads is not the point. Like, leads is absolutely not the point. So like you, I'm also B2B. So what I know is that every lead has to be worked. So there is the cost of acquiring the lead, and then there is the cost of servicing the lead. So the volume of leads is probably the worst indicator of how your business is doing.
Absolutely.
But people are obsessed about leads. That's absolutely fine. So what I would need to do if I was going to take on a client now in this kind of a sense is here's what I would have to do. I would have to convince them that the only point of them being in business is to have a business that's valued at something, and that someone will write a big fat check for at some point in the future. That business is all about finding, winning, and keeping customers profitably. If I could convince them of those two things, which is actually much more important than what these other guys on YouTube, on the pre-roll ads on YouTube, are telling them. Well, you can have 200 leads a day. Great. It takes 10 minutes to service a lead, to find out if they're actually interested in something or not.
Yeah.
That then times 200 times 10 minutes, is my maths isn't great enough. For every day of lead generation you do, you're going to have to do 5 days of lead servicing. So it's not profitable. Do you know what I mean? Everyone thinks they need leads, and they don't need leads. And there's things about marketing that everyone thinks. The point about what you were saying before is people don't buy in for the long term, and that's absolutely fine. Why would you expect them to? Our reputation, our industry has a reputation for not maintaining customers for more than 3 months. But what you have to do then is, if you're saying, okay, this is what we're expecting to achieve in 12 months, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the progress we've made after 1 month, and I expect it to be this. And the key is to be able to over deliver. So under promise on what that first month's going to be, under promise on what the second month's going to be, so that every month you go back, you're able to say, look, we're doing better than we expected. But I think to really do a good job for a customer, and this is service providers doing a good job as well as customers doing a good, it's all the same thing. Like, you're doing your customer a disservice if you aren't able to convince them of that. You're doing yourself a disservice, because you're not going to be able to service that customer, I don't think, profitably without convincing them of that.
Mm.
Do you have any idea what time we started? I think we've gone long. This is by far and away, you may not have made it to 007, but this is the most interesting conversation I've had.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I mean, it might not be a good thing. Maybe I have some weird and conflicting and incorrect views on marketing, and you're just setting me right along the way. Maybe that's why it's the most interesting. But I guess I guess do you know what? I can imagine why you're finding this interesting, simply because I mean, I talked about the ADH, the hyperactivity. My brain goes down tangents. My brain goes off on funny ways, and that is effectively, that's my USP, Martin. Is that when I'm talking to customers, my brain goes everywhere, and that's why I kind of love what I do, and why I think I'm doing okay at it at the moment, is because I cannot stick to their point, and maybe sometimes that can work against me. But whatever they come to me to talk about, we will end up talking about other things and other ways to achieve. So yeah, perhaps that's why you found it interesting. Thank you. What a lovely compliment.
No, that's okay.
Sheldon's not finding it very interesting.
Sheldon is completely unimpressed. I think Sheldon's with me on the USP thing. So what did I want to say? The thing is, the reason I'm finding this interesting is I don't think it's because you're going off on tangents. I think it's because what you're saying is pretty consistent with kind of marketing theory. But the thing that I find interesting is that you were steering the marketing for this business that went from £10 million to £60 million, and I've never done that. I wouldn't have coped in that environment, and you did every kind of marketing, and you had budget, and you had resource, and you clearly had a board who were on that mission. That's why I find it interesting. There's nothing that you're saying that isn't not standard good marketing practice is what you're telling me. And but all I'm trying to push back a little bit is, all the time you're fishing for a USP, there's a danger that you're going to produce some bullshit, and there's too much bullshit in our market already. That's what I think.
Yeah. I tell you what, one thing you've just reminded me of when you're kind of talking about the board having that vision for the growth. One thing that I tried really hard to do, I mean, so I'm definitely one of those people that, like, listens to marketing podcasts and reads marketing books. And I love to hear about best practice. And every now and then, I find I get a little light bulb moment. Here's a way to do this. Here's a way to talk about that. Here's a way to explain this. One of the most interesting things I found, and why I really enjoyed my time in the last business, Paladine, I really did. I expressed this desire to be able to try things. One of the first things my boss actually said when I arrived at the business was, if you do everything right, then or if everything works, you're not trying hard enough. It was basically, you've got to fail in order to find what works and what doesn't work. So that was a really nice kind of interesting starting point. And it led me eventually to this analogy where I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about bees, right? And in a beehive, they send 80% of their bees to where all the flowers are, pollen, right? Yeah. 80% of the bees go to where the pollen is. The other 20% go out and find where the next pollen is going to be for when those flowers are all done. They've used those. So it's the old classic 80-20. It's all of our favorite split. And the business were really keen on letting me do that. Spend 80% of the time on marketing activities that we know, we love, it works, it's classic, they've heard of, they understand. And 20% of the time being experimental, looking for opportunities, trying to further ourselves, trying out things that competitors weren't trying out. And again, I guess perhaps that's again what you're talking about, in that, a lot of what I talk is theory, but I'm also really interested in throwing the book away, away and moving away from classic marketing. And if today's I don't know, consultancy session is going to be all about how are your receptionists answering the telephone, and is it adequate, or what kind of voicemail have you got in place for when your customers are calling out of hours, then I'm as happy having those kind of conversations and seeing if we can get it working better as I am, setting up an email campaign. So yeah, you just reminded me of that whole bee thing, because they were a great board to work for.
Yeah, and so it sounds to me like nobody describes it as starkly as I do. I don't think. I haven't heard anyone describe it as starkly as I do, but they were certainly on that mission. You need to know that you're in business to make money, and the more money you make, the more successful you are as a business. I don't want to shock you 3 times in the same call, but I'm also a revolutionary communist. But I do accept that we live under capitalism, and you are as successful as the amount of capital you manage to accrue. That is the point of business. That's the only point of business. And it sounds to me that your board at least was somewhere in that understanding. They knew what
Absolutely.
they were about. So
yeah,
really, I think the point of this for me, I think, is that the first instance is, okay, we've started with the product or the customer being a dick. That's your job, is to kind of assess how good is that product? How good is that customer? Is this someone that I can take on this journey? Because it is going to be a journey, and they need to be prepared for that journey. And if they're turning up and they're saying, look, I'm 20 stone and I want to be 12 stone for my son's wedding a week on Tuesday, you can say, okay, good. You're going to have to lose 1.5 stone every day between now and then. So I'll be by with a sword tomorrow to cut an arm off. It's almost like that situation. It's almost like this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite a nice thing that I'll take away from this, really, because as a young business, I am almost, you grab every lead, you want them to convert, you want to be able to help everyone. But I've certainly realized, I guess, over the last, over the last 8-ish, 10 months of running this business, that not every lead can be converted. Or perhaps I've even discovered worse, that I can convert almost every lead, but I can't deliver enough on their budgets or on their expectations. And I think that's I've never had to do this before, working with clients in that way. And that's a really interesting part, I guess, of what I'm discovering now, is that, saying no is definitely a thing to a business that isn't going to go on the journey with me. Being realistic about what kind of investments they're going to have to make, not into me, but in their paid budgets, other partners. You're going to have this partner, that partner. Yeah, I think it's people just even, hugely underestimating how much it costs to build a proper website, especially, again, if you're talking, global B2B e-commerce. So those kind of things, really getting people's expectations right up front, I think is something I'm learning. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to. And no is the most powerful close in the world ever. If you start telling people no, they might just buck up and decide that they do want to put in the hard yards. And I think that's the difference. I think there's real parallels between, I used to say to people that running a marketing company is a little bit like a gym membership. Like, when they turn up, they're fully committed, they're prepared to invest everything, and it's all going to be great. But actually 3 weeks later, they'd rather sit at home and eat cake, and it is exactly like that. So I think part of your challenge, or anyone who's a marketing agency's challenge, is to actually qualify their opportunities. Is this somebody that I can work with and keep motivated for the long term? And is this actually a product that has a chance of being successful? If you get those two things right, then I don't think it's really a gamble. I really don't think it's a gamble. Give me those two things and I can show you progress every month, and they could be with me for years. That's what I'm saying.
You're right. That's the dream customer. If they have those two things and you've had that discussion, then I think that's it. You're ready to go on the journey. I'm going to be keeping my eyes open. We talked again, our off-camera conversation. We talked about that, and I think that's the one. Wait until people really understand what they want, what it's going to take to get there, and show the appetite, the willingness, and then move it forwards. Yeah.
Yes, and you'll need far less of those. You'll need many, 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 many more people who think that their business is going to grow 500% in the next 20 minutes.
Because you're going to turn them over every 3 months.
If you're lucky. 3 months might be a long time.
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
Okay, good. I'm just aware that I'm going to have to transcribe this.
Do you do it by hand?
No, I cheat. Do you want to know the cheat?
I did notice that you cheated a little bit, actually, because on the one I watched previously, there was a couple of typos on Jim's one. So I reckon you play it out loud into Google Notes or something like that.
No. Google are involved.
Are they?
Yes, they are involved, but I don't play it out loud into notes.
Because that's something I read once for like for students taking notes during lectures. You can just open up Google and it can translate audio into, it can type it, of course, voice recorder, whatever. Yeah. So no, that's not what you do.
No. So here's what I do is I upload it to YouTube, and then I leave it for a couple of days. And if you go back a couple of days later and you go into the subtitles, it will have auto-generated subtitles. And what you can do now is you can download all of that. And these are typically around 12,000 words. And then it has to be edited because it's not right, particularly on the keywords, which I think is odd of Google. You think they'd be sharp on the keywords, but they're not. So very often you'll talk about PPC and they'll be like PPC or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes me 15 minutes to do a page. A page is about 500 words. So I will spend an hour. I will spend 40 minutes on this every day before it goes up next Tuesday.
Gosh. And I talk quite fast. I reckon I'm at about 100. I reckon I'm audiobook speed, which is 160 words per minute. I think that's, so you've got a lot to get through. I've no idea how long we've been recording for,
I think we've been on for an hour and a half. An
absolute
already.
Pleasure.
I've really enjoyed it as well. I've really, really enjoyed it. We're going to have to do this again because we haven't we haven't got onto this whole recession pandemic thing that's going on currently.
No, shop local, support local, Google harder.
People. Yes.
Those are my honestly, my biggest tip is to Google harder, ask for recommendations on social media. I'm having my kitchen knocked down. I put out a Facebook notification, where can I get good Sunday roasts for delivery? And just the amount of businesses I've never heard of, local businesses, restaurants that have turned to doing online delivery. And so I'm now excited. I'm like, I'm gonna start a blog. I'm gonna do the next 12 weeks whilst my kitchen's gone, different Sunday roast from a different place. I'm gonna review, write them. Excellent. But the point is there's loads more out there than the top of Google and your Facebook adverts tell you. So that's my advice for the pandemic. It's not business advice, it's personal advice. Google harder, social media harder to try and find what's going on locally, because every business is trying to do something, but the way that especially SEO works, they won't be showing up right now on your Google search. So look harder and support local. There we go.
And that's interesting. That's not what anyone else has said. So well done for that. That was unique.
Good. That's my unique perspective, perhaps.
That's your unique
good.
USR.
USSR?
No,
you're a fan of the USSR.
You're calling me a communist now. I'm a revolutionary communist.
A revolutionary.
So no, we'll call it a USRP.
USRP. Unique.
Yes.
Social.
No.
Review point.
No.
I don't know what it was. Remind me.
Unique Sunday roast policy.
That's great. I love it. I love a Sunday roast. I, if I may say so, I'm a very good Sunday roast cooker. And it's the thing I'm going to miss the most. Oh, I hate it.
Oh,
but there we go.
Because you're having your kitchen done. But you can have a new kitchen. You're going to cook 1,000 Sunday roasts in that kitchen. I'm
actually going to do a vlog about, because I do a zero waste Sunday roast. That's how I like to cook, which is perhaps also quite unique. So I'm going to do a vlog. I'm going to send it to you. There we go. You'll enjoy that. Once I've got my new kitchen all shiny. Can't possibly work as zero waste. What about the bits of roast potato that are burnt onto the thing because they're so, and you can't get them off? That's waste. Can't be zero waste. Well, I mean, it's you're catching me out a little bit there. Yeah, I mean, the oil that the potatoes cook in. Yeah, maybe you could reuse that oil. Maybe I do. Maybe you could.
Okay, cool. We have to draw a line now. I think I feel like I've disagreed with you. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. This has been really cool.
Thank you. Me too, Martin. It's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to seeing the transcript. I really want to know how long it takes. That's going to be fascinating. But yeah, let's do it again. It'd be great. Maybe you can come on my podcast.
I would love to do that, and we should do something else. You know, I don't know. I'm gonna. But the thing is, I don't know if I'm going to run out of people because people recommend people like you. So it might be good. But I'm interested in, like Ed, I spoke to at the very beginning. He wants to talk about the morality of marketing, and it seems to me there's levels to that that I'm interested in. And yeah, we'll do it again. We'll definitely do it again. And I would love to come and talk to you about whatever it is you do on your podcast. You didn't tell people about your podcast. What's it called?
No, I guess I should do a plug at this end of it. The podcast, you can find it anywhere. It's called Marketing 101, Big Steps for Small Businesses. And it's like a real nice marketing basics intro to certain topics, how to choose the right social media channel, how to create a nice organic LinkedIn ecosystem to grow your business page, things like that. So I don't go too broad, I don't go too niche. So that's it. And then the business is Marketing 101.
Yes.
I should do the marketing-101.co.uk.
Good. That's where people will find you.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
I've thoroughly enjoyed this. It feels like.
Does it feel like we've put the world to right?
A little bit, yeah. Doesn't feel like we've quite come to the end of things, I think, but we'll get there next time.
Let's go again. It'll be great fun.
Wicked. Cheers, man. Thanks so much.
Nice to see you, Martin. Thanks.
You too. Bye.